All right, let's get started. Welcome to People of Yahuwah's Word, where Yahuwah has called us to truth, not tradition, conscience, not custom. I'm Brother A, and we're going to jump right into part 2 of Feast Days of Yahuwah. Now, I'd like to just make a quick correction from part 1. In part 1, I talked a little bit about the prophet of Malachi chapter 4 that Yahuwah would send into the world before that great and terrible day. Well, I said that prophet was Elisha. However, the truth is that it is Elijah. So it's Elijah that Yahuwah will send back to this earth to further inform people of his word and the importance of his word. So that's Malachi chapter 4. All right, let's move on. So before I get too far into part 2, I'd like to just summarize and clarify the main points from part 1. If you haven't looked at part 1, it would be great. I'd invite you to do that. But I'd just like to summarize and clarify a few things. So in part 1, we established that the Gregorian calendar system of today is based upon the pagan Roman timekeeping system created by man and is not ordained by the word of Yahuwah. And its makeup, its construction, is not based upon the instructions given in Yahuwah's word. And neither is it based upon the examples provided in Yahuwah's word. So therefore, it cannot be used to establish Yahuwah's weekly and yearly feast days. Furthermore, the Gregorian calendar is disqualified as a standard tool for accounting for Yahuwah's feast days. That was point number 1. Point number 2. The great deceiver, Satan, the adversary also known as the devil, will weaken the nations and deceive most of Earth's inhabitants by attempting to usurp or take over the place of the Most High in the minds of the people. The adversary will set himself up as the Most High and will claim he is worthy of worship and obedience. So how will Satan take the place of the Most High in the minds of the people of this world? Let's take a look at Isaiah chapter 14, 13 through 15. It reads, "For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit." Yes, Satan eventually will become ashes under the feet of the righteous. Well, the word of the congregation comes from the Hebrew word, which is moed, which means appointed meeting times, set apart or holy days, feast days. So how is Satan going to do this? He's going to set himself above, usurp Yahuwah's appointed meeting times, his set apart or holy days, by instituting his own system of holidays, holy days. Well, who is referenced in the Holy Scripture? Just looking at this verse a little bit closer, who is referenced in the Holy Scripture as rightfully sitting on the sides of the north? Notice he says he's going to, in verse 13, he's going to establish himself on the sides of the north. Well, in Psalm 48, verses 1 and 2, we find this amazing statement. It says, "Great is Yahuwah, and greatly to be praised, in the city of our Elohim, in the mountain of his holiness. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth, is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great King." Wow. So here we see that Mount Zion, the heavenly city, which will be brought to earth in that last time, that last days, the heavenly city and headquarters of Yahuwah's government is on the sides of the north. So see, Satan is going to, he thinks in his mind that he can't actually usurp the very headquarters of Yahuwah, Creator. Point number 3. Yahuwah, Creator, has ordained and set apart the sun, moon, and stars for determining Yahuwah's feast days and holy appointed meeting times for his people, Hebrews and non-Hebrew followers. Yahuwah also appointed through his set-apart word the sun, moon, and stars for tracking and accounting for days and years. Therefore, Yahuwah has appointed the sun, moon, and stars for calendar forming according to the instructions and examples of his word. According to Psalm 104, we find this, okay? In Psalm 104, Yahuwah especially appointed the moon for his feast days, his set-apart days. And so we see, it says, he appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Again, that word seasons is moed in the Hebrew, appointed meeting times, set apart holy days or feast days. As we will see shortly, Yahuwah also ordained the moon for accounting for and identifying calendar days. All right. So this completes our summary and clarification from part 1. Let us now continue. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 1 because Genesis chapter 1 establishes the foundation for the understanding that Yahuwah appointed the reoccurring light as the starting point, the reoccurring light that he, Yahuwah, made as the starting point of each calendar day. You see, the light Yahuwah made on the first day of creation and then fashioned into the sun, moon, and stars on the fourth day of creation. The sun, that light that Yahuwah made, marks the beginning of the calendar day, and its reoccurrence after the blackness of night marks the end of the calendar day and the beginning of a new day. Therefore, according to the word of Yahuwah, the beginning of dawn is the start of the calendar day. There are many who, believe that the beginning of the day begins with evening, but this is not established. This is not according to the word of Yahuwah. Let's take a look. We're just going to take a closer look at day 1 of creation. So in Genesis chapter 1, verses 3 through 5, we find this statement. It says, "And Elohim said, Let there be light. And there was light. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day. and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Now let's just kind of unpack what is actually being stated here, communicated. What is Yahuwah trying to communicate to us? Well, we see that on this day, he said, let light come into existence. And the scripture says there was light. So the first thing he did is he created light. He saw that it was good. Then he divides the light from the darkness. Okay, number two. Number one, creates light. Number two, divides the light from the darkness. And then number three, he names the light day, and he names the darkness night. Now, in the last part of the last sentence of verse 5, it says, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So here we see that an evening arrives, and then a morning arrives, and now the first day is complete. So the first day is not just beginning, but the first day is completed with an evening and a morning. Well, let's look at this a little closer. What do we mean by evening? So evening, the word here is the Hebrew word Arab, which means dusk or moving toward the darkness of night. So we see in that last sentence in verse 5 that we have a movement towards darkness, okay, or night. And then we have a morning. Well, that word there, morning, comes from the Hebrew word boker, which means dawn or the breaking of the day. So now we have the new light. We have the presence of light coming again. The dawn of a new day comes upon us. And then he says, and the first day. Okay, so let's look at that a little closer, because now is the first day beginning, or is it complete? I submit to you that it is now complete. So we have the evening and then the morning of a new day, and that marks the end of that first day and the beginning of another day, the next day. So let's take a look in the literal translation of that Hebrew, okay, and in Genesis 1, 3 through 5. And I'm going to read it from the Young's literal translation. It says, and Elohim saith, let light be, and light is. And Elohim seeth the light, that it is good. And Elohim separateth between the light and the darkness. And Elohim calleth to the light day, and to the darkness he hath called night. And there is an evening, and there is a morning, day one. So we see here that an evening arrives after Yahuwah does his work of creating the light, separating the light from the darkness, naming the light day, naming the darkness night. Then arrives an evening, and then arrives the dawn of a new day. Day one is now over. All right, so we see now that the dawning of the day, the dawning of the daylight, is the starting point of the new calendar day, and is therefore also the ending point of the previous calendar day. Now, how has Yahuwah ordained each calendar day to be tracked and accounted for? How are we supposed to know what day it is? Yahuwah has done something magnificent, as he always does. He has ordained the moon to be mankind's calendar day tracker. each calendar day, the moon changes slightly in the shape of its light appearance. The Creator, Yahuwah, did not leave us in the dark. Neither are we supposed to guess at timekeeping or create our own timekeeping system. He has already done that. He's given that in His Word for us. His instruction for timekeeping are clearly in His Word. Let's take a look. Now we're going to look at a few passages in Genesis and Exodus. And I want you to notice that the calendar day is connected to a certain month of the year. Let's take a look. All right, so Genesis 7, verse 11, it says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened." So we see that it is in the 2nd month, the 17th day of that month. In Genesis chapter 8, verse 4 and 5, we find this statement, "And the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat." And then verse 5 says, "And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month on the 1st day of the month were the tops of the mountains seen." So we see that the day is always linked to the month. All right. Now let's look at some other verses. All right. So Exodus chapter 12, we see the following. "Speak," verse 3, it says, "Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house." So again, in the 10th day of this month. So there must be somewhere that identifies that month, this month. Verse 6 says, "And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening." All right, let's continue. Verse 18 of the same chapter, chapter 12, says, "In the 1st month, on the 14th day of the month at even, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even." Okay, so we see all these days that are mentioned, the 10th day of the month, the 14th day of the month, is all part of the same month. It's actually the 1st month. The 1st month? So Yahuwah's timekeeping system, which is very simple. Even a child can understand it. It identifies each day as part of a month. Now, what do we mean by month? Well, let's take a look. That word month in the Hebrew is Kodesh, and it literally means the new moon. Now we will we'll translate that word Kodesh to month, but it actually means new moon. In fact, something I found that was pretty interesting is that the origin or etymology of the English word month actually comes from the German and Dutch words for moon. Interesting. So, according to the Hebrew scripture, that word, as we saw, all those references to month, is actually referring to the new moon. So now the Hebrew word Kodesh, which is translated to month in English, as I mentioned, literally means new moon. Therefore, so what is new about the moon? You see, the moon is a light object that Yahuwah placed in the firmament. See Genesis chapter 1, 14 through 19. It is the only great light object that Yahuwah created that visibly changes on a daily basis. Amazing. It visibly changes. It's the only one. You see, the moon changes daily for a series of either 29 or 30 days. It's never 28 or 31 days or any other amount of days. It's always 29 or 30 days. The last day of the moon cycle is that calendar day when no light shines from the moon. That day is also called conjunction in certain circles of astronomy. So that last day, okay, when no light shines from the moon, is called conjunction. It is the last day of the moon's cycle. It is the darkest point for the moon in that series of days. Well, after the darkest day, in other words, the darkest illumination from the moon, that day when the moon's light is the darkest, okay, the following day is the first day of the new moon cycle, or the first day of the month, according to the scripture. So what we have is a situation where the moon, as well as the sun and stars, are so precise. Okay, their movement and their timekeeping is so precise and accurate that the moon and sun calendars can be made for many years into the future, because it's all based upon a pattern. You see, this unique visible change, okay, it is based upon a periodic pattern and is therefore predictable and chartable. This is the way the Creator has made the moon, so predictable and is easily chartable. Mankind has known this for thousands of years, and its precision and accuracy it's second to none. It's amazing. So, therefore, the calendar days are counted according to the first day from the beginning of the moon's cycle, also known as New Moon Day. So let's take a closer look at chapter 12 in Exodus. In Exodus chapter 12, we find this passage. I read verse 3, which mentioned the 10th day of the month, but let's put it into context. It says, "And Yahuwah spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house." So we can see here from this passage, okay, this is taken from the King James, and therefore the word Lord is used in place of the name of Yahuwah. So we have Lord, but we know what the scripture says, and his name is Yahuwah. So let us look at this a little closer. It says in verse 2, it says, "This month shall be unto you the beginning of months." So the beginning of that word month is Kodesh. So he says, it shall be the first month or the first new moon of the year to you. Okay, and as I mentioned before, that word month is Kodesh, which means new moon. So we have this new moon, this first new moon. Actually, this was the month that the children of Israel moved out of Egypt. And that month, according to Deuteronomy 16, verse 1, is the month of Abib. It is the first month of the year, and it is always in the spring. So this month, or the month Abib, okay, this new moon, which always occurs in the spring, is the first new moon of the year. And so therefore, Yahuwah is also telling us the first calendar day of the year, because he's identified that the moon, that first new moon of the year, okay, is the first in the series of months, or the first in the series of new moons that they are to recognize. The calendar days are always linked to and measured from that given new moon, whether it's the first new moon, the second new moon, etc. Let us now examine visually. Okay, we're going to examine visually Yahuwah's timekeeping system by superimposing Yahuwah's timekeeping or calendar system upon the Gregorian calendar system. We will use Yahuwah's word alone as our standard for accounting and tracking calendar days, and Yahuwah's feast days, the weekly and yearly feast days. The weekly feast days are called Sabbaths, and some of the yearly feast days are also identified as Sabbaths. So let's take a look. All right. So in this slide, we're going to, again, we recognize that the scripture says that the word month, which is new moon, means new moon. Okay, it's important for the reader and student of the Holy Scripture to recognize that the word month in the Bible refers to the moon, the tracking tool Yahuwah placed in the firmament of heaven to account for all calendar days. You see, all days are linked to the moon. The word month should not be thought of as an arbitrary unit of approximately 30 days. No. The word month should be understood as Yahuwah's heavenly moon clock. You see, he created it. No one can touch it. And it's there for the entire world. Yahuwah's heavenly moon clock for the count of calendar days and to track and count Yahuwah's weekly and yearly feast days. This fundamental scriptural understanding has been almost entirely lost among those who claim to be his followers and following his set-apart word, but many do not even recognize what it is. And so this is what people of Yahuwah's word is all about, is to bring to light Yahuwah's word. So let's take a look before we get into the weekly and yearly feast days, which we're going to cover more in part 3. But I want to take a look at the mechanics, how this calendar works. Like I said, it's so simple, even a child could understand it. So, as I said before, Kodesh is the word that is translated in the Holy Scripture, in the Holy Bible rather, to month. Okay, and it means new moon. So the new moon is the new light, okay, from the moon. So what calendar day on this slide? This is the Gregorian calendar, March of 2021. So what calendar day does the new light from the moon appear? Can you identify that? What day is it? So if you look closely, you'll see that the last day that light is shining from the moon, where there's no light rather, is the 13th of March. That is the last day of the month. And as you can see, you have a little bit of light shining from the moon, no light, and then light once again. Every day it changes. And this is by the Creator's design. This is a design. This is not just random ornaments in the heavens. No, this is the Creator's design. And it's designed for tracking and, according to His Word, for determining holy days. Okay, so here we have the first day, the 14th of March, is the first day, or the day that light begins to shine forth from the moon again. All right, and so this begins that first day. That would be day 1, first day of the month. Okay, first day of the month. And then we have the second day of the month, third day of the month on the 16th of March, fourth day on the 17th, and so on. Okay. Now, at the top of this slide, you'll see that it introduces the Metonic cycle. Okay, well, the Metonic cycle is a pattern. It is amazing what the Creator has done. You see, Yahuwah made his tracking tool to be pattern driven. So the Metonic cycle it's given the name Metonic cycle after the Greek philosopher Meton, and but long before the Greek philosopher, man understood this pattern that Yahuwah established. Okay, and it is a 235 complete moon cycles, which constitutes 19 years. 19 years, or seasonal years, or solar years. Okay, and so we have 235 moon cycles, which is equal to 19 years. And so we have this period of time of days, okay, and as I mentioned, moon cycles or months, okay, and then the cycle starts over again. So the cycle of when, for example, when the new moon occurs, when the half moon occurs, when the full moon, and all the phases of the moon starts all over again after 19 years. It's incredible. So it's totally chartable, even right down to the minute. Moon calendars, sun calendars can be created based upon this amazing pattern. So currently we're in the 11th year of the Metonic cycle, 11th year of this series of 19 years. Okay, so just a couple more things before we close. Okay, I wanted to just show you that the number of days. So as you can see that this, well, you can't see it from here, but we're going to go from here. So if you look at the first day, if you were to count this, I'm going to give you a couple more slides so that you can pause and count the days. As I mentioned before, the moon cycle only lasts for either 29 days or 30 days. So here's April, and so the first month of the year, okay, this year was a 29-day month. 29-day month. And you can go back and count it. If you go from, if you start from the first day, new moon day, okay, in March, and you go to the last day, this would be the last day of the month, the 11th of April, you will see that it is only 29 days. So if we start right here and we go to the next month, starting, this is day 1, and we go to right here, the last day where you have light shining from the moon on May 11th, this is a 30-day month, okay? So you can go back and look at that, do your own research and look into this. You know, it's really amazing, the design of our Creator and how He has made things, and we're not in the dark. His word is true and faithful. And so we're just going to kind of wrap it up here. As I mentioned, in part 3, we're going to look into a little more closer the feast days, okay, the weekly and yearly feast days, how we actually account for them according to the Scripture. So this is Brother A, and we're going to wrap it up with part 2 of Feast Days of Yahuwah. Just want to leave you with this thought. The word of Yahuwah is supreme and supersedes and overrides every idea, custom, theory, and tradition of mankind. May Yahuwah bless you as you continue to study the Word and study the Scriptures and gain a deeper understanding of what He has called us to. For He has called us to be a set-apart people and to walk according to His Word.